Hello everyone, how are you doing today? My name is Karina and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a very exciting update for my Use That Eyeshadows project. So what I've been able to do over the course of the last month, I have of course these three palettes that are currently in my rotation. We have the Butter London Natural Goddess palette, the Ciate London Spice palette, and of course the Makeup Revolution Forever Flawless Constellation palette. And we have much to discuss today, so without further ado, let's just dive right into it. Again, this is a little bit different of an eyeshadow project, so make sure you do check out the intro for how I do all of my setup, my explanations, all of that good stuff. But let's talk about progress. And the first palette that I had was this one. This, of course, is the Butter London Natural Goddess palette. The shade I had rolled in was this one here in Temptress. This, of course, is a deepening up the outer corner shade, which is great because that gave me versatility for the entire palette. Now, at my last update, which if you haven't checked out, please go ahead and take a look at that because I talked about this palette a fair amount. I had used it 6 times at that point. There were 4 uses for this month to reach my goals on it. But I didn't use it. And the reason why, I have a very hard time decluttering, especially eyeshadow palettes, because, like, again, this is a very pretty palette, but it doesn't perform the best. It doesn't last that well in the eyes. I can't use this palette on its own because I do prefer to have a matte in the crease. And I know in my last update I did give that big spiel about potentially decluttering this and still want to give it a chance. But when I went to use it after I had filmed that video, I realized I had made my mind up. I just wasn't quite there yet to actually let it go. So this should have been rolled out last month, but it did just take me going through the filming and the editing and all of that. Again, if I'm not enjoying this, I have so many other palettes that I haven't even touched in my collection that I want to get use out of. So on one hand, I'm sorry I didn't come to that realization before I had filmed the last update, because then that meant this was basically a dud palette for me this month. But that meant I was able to focus a lot more on the other palettes and make progress. So stay tuned for this. You will see it one more time in a declutter video. So that is upcoming. So subscribe if you do enjoy declutter videos. They're very small. I declutter like 5 items at a time. Again, because I'm not very good at decluttering, but this palette will be featured in there. And again, it's beautiful, but it's just not doing it for me. That brings us then to the Ciate London Spice palette. I had rolled in the shade Pumpkin Soup, which I think I kept calling Pumpkin Spice when I first rolled it in. Ooh, Pumpkin Soup. Now, there was a point where I was also thinking of decluttering this palette because to start off with, oh, that was easy this time. Okay. But there we go. This can be difficult to open. I have smooshed some manicures trying to open it. The color story is beautiful. Just I feel like I have it in a lot of other palettes. I had used it 3 times for the last update. This, of course, here's Pumpkin Soup right here. I did reach it for the additional 7 times. And you can see there's a decent amount of usage on there now. A lot of disturbance in there. Again, I do try to wear my products down evenly, so I'm not like rushing to try to hit pan or anything, just the way I pan my makeup, which is more use the makeup rather than panning it, but you know what I mean. At this point, because Pumpkin Soup was more of a limiting color for me, like this is a beautiful all over the lid shade, what it meant was I was putting this in the crease, this all over the lid, this in the outer corner, sometimes this one on the inner part. Not an inner corner highlight, it wasn't quite enough for that. This one, of course, to set to my eyeshadow primer, but that meant I didn't use any of these. So this palette is going to be on the chopping block for me. I do want to play with some more of these mauvey pinky tones and then decide at that point what I'm going to do with this palette. Because again, I do like it. It just wears off the eye a little bit fast. It is difficult to open. It's not super unique. But again, at this point, I am not ready to declutter it. I did use Pumpkin Soup my 10 times now. So we're just going to move this into my chopping block category. And then eventually I will make a decision on this palette. And hey, maybe it gets easier to open over time, because if it does that, that would be very nice. That brings us to the last one that is currently in the project from my Makeup Revolution Forever Flawless Constellation palette. This is the second time this palette has been rolled into the project. And last month I had rolled in the shade Universal. So again, a lovely kind of deepening up shade. It was very similar to Temptress, at least in terms of how I use the item. Obviously, this is the palette here. This is the shade Universal. So unlike Neptune, which I had rolled in for my intro, Universal meant I could play with anything. Like, I think at this point there's only 2 shades I may not have reached into, and those were Cluster and Mercury, which for me, again, both deepening out the outer part shades. So I haven't used those. But I think I have used everything else at least once. And Universal with this palette was fantastic, because I could do a look like today where it's set the eyeshadow primer, crease, outer corner, this all over the lid, gorgeous. But I also did like a look with the red and green with Universal. Didn't quite turn out on the lids the way I wanted it to, but yeah, that's fine. I went super pink. I did that look twice actually, of where I put a lot of Venus in the crease, a little bit of Jupiter in there as well. I did Cosmic or Dimension all over the lid, depending on which day it was. One day I did the purple, one day I did the pink. So I could do a lot with this. So I have been enjoying it. I have reached for Universal a total of 8 times, including today, which means I only have 2 more uses on it to be able to roll it out of this project. So for now, this one is going to stay in for another month. With 2 palettes rolling out, that means we get to roll 2 new palettes in, which on one hand, I am super excited. I'm looking forward to it. And on the other hand, I'm getting a little nervous because I have so much eyeshadow in projects right now. If you've seen my other projects, you know. But it's fine. Again, this is a very chill, relaxed project. And really, this is going to be a gimme next month because I only have 2 uses left on it. So I'll be able to roll something in, which is always my goal for this project. So without further ado, let's do that roll in. So I have, because I was doing the random number generator, which is fine, but maybe not as exciting for you guys. You let me know your opinions down below. But I have on my phone here the random number generator app. And so we're going to randomize on screen. So unlike previously, I have no idea what I'm about to bring into my collection. So I am super, super excited. We're going to do it live together. So I'm going to roll in 2 new colors. I'll look at my sheet, let you know what those are, and then I'll go pull those palettes, and then we'll make some goals. My phone is a little bit beat up. Apologies for that. But the first number we're going to roll in, there we go. So we have number 214, and the second number is going to be 149. Okay. This is actually going to be quite exciting. 214 is a BoxyCharm eyeshadow, which, spoiler, most of my eyeshadow palettes are BoxyCharm features. This comes from my Dominique Cosmetics Transition palette in the shade Natural, which, if I'm remembering that palette correctly, that's going to mean I can basically do anything I want with the palette. So that is super exciting. Oh, guys. Oh, I'm so excited as well. This is a good month. I'm okay. 149 is actually my Natasha Denona little mini Cupid palette, which is also from BoxyCharm, but I have never used it yet. That came through a couple months ago, but again, because I kind of had my own shop my stash thing going on, I hadn't been able to bring it in. So, I am so excited. Okay, guys, this is the beautiful Transitions palette from Dominique Cosmetics. I have been enjoying everything I've gotten from Dominique Cosmetics in BoxyCharm. I think this was a choice I made 2 years ago now, so this is kind of getting older, which is not the best, but when I played with this palette before, I did really enjoy it. Natural is the color I was thinking it was. So this is the palette here. This is the shade Natural. How I would use this shade is as a setting your eyeshadow look, which means I can do anything with this palette. So I love when that happens with this project. Now you will note as well, this is an all matte palette. Now you guys know that I tend to use my palettes more holistically, which means I would use the one palette for one look. But this is all matte, and as you guys can see, I tend to prefer a lot of shimmer and gorgeousness all over my eyes. And don't get me wrong, this is a beautiful palette. But in my mind, I would consider this to be more of a companion palette. I have used it before, but you really can't see much use on anything except here where I kind of accidentally dug a brush into it there. But oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be so pretty. And it's been a long time since I've been able to play with this, so I am super excited that it's back. And then for my Natasha Denona, my Cupid palette, again, one of the little 5 panners that has come to me from BoxyCharm. It is so gorgeous. I didn't get this for quite a while. It eventually got to me, but I'm just so thrilled to have been able to finally get it. The shade that I have rolled in is, good question, Nude Veno? I think that's how you say it. That could be entirely incorrect. So very interesting. Nude Veno is this one right here. So again, very similar kind of vibes to Temptress, to Universal, and now this one in here. But that's okay, because I would use either one of these two, I think, to deepen the outer corner, kind of depending on the look I'm doing. So depending what I do, this still gives me so much versatility. So I'm still very excited for this. And again, I love Natasha Denona shadows. I have only ever gotten these 5 pencils, so it's not like I'm an expert on Natasha Denona or anything. But I'm so excited for this new color. Which brings us to a very interesting color kind of story for the month. So we have 2 kind of matte darker browns and 1 eyelid setting shade for your primer. Again, maybe not the most interesting for you guys. Apologies for that, but it's fun for me because that means I can do absolutely everything and anything with these palettes. So I am so very excited about them. Well, let's take a moment. Let's talk about some goals. Obviously, the priority for next month is going to get my last 2 uses on Universal. That is not going to be difficult to do, even with all of the eyeshadows I have in projects. Because again, super, super wearable and easy. And from there, I'm not fully sure what to do for a second goal. Because I do want to have some good progress on at least one of these palettes to be able to, you know, keep that progress, keep that momentum moving. I do want to have at least 1 eyeshadow palette moving out every month. And I'm torn because, again, the Dominique Cosmetics palette is very good for work right now because May is fairly-ish busy. So, you know, quick morning makeup is good. Very, very wearable. But the Natasha Denona is a little bit more of like a fall palette in my mind. And like, we're basically hitting summer now. We're getting towards like high 20s or low 30s, which is a lot for Saskatchewan. But that's my only little hesitation on it. It may not be the most seasonally appropriate, but still neutral enough that it should be fine. So between these ones, I don't have any goals. So we'll kind of see where it takes me, and of course, how I fit these 3 palettes in with everything else I've got going on. But on the other side of things, especially with the Dominique Cosmetics, that's going to allow me to make really good use, for example, of some of the eyeliners that I have. So for example, I have a very vibrant purple eyeliner in my deck of panning project, and that would work quite well with this. So we'll just have to see how it goes. So make sure you're subscribed so you do not miss when I upload my next update. I generally do have this around the middle of the month or so. It kind of depends on my filming schedule and how everything's going with other projects, but that's generally in the range that you will see this update next. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. If there's any particular tips, tricks, looks that you want me to do with any of these. Get some inspiration. We'll share the love around. But otherwise, that is where I'm going to leave it for today. Thank you so much for joining me for this very exciting update. Again, we have a decluttered palette. We've had a palette I met goal on. And we're bringing in a palette I have not played with before. So it's going to be great. And I'll see you guys in my next video very soon. Have a wonderful day.